My next guest is usually associated with more substantial things than cat and mouse games. Whether he likes it or not, his name will be forever linked with his first bestseller, Lucky Jim. He likes wine, he likes Rudyard Kipling and Tom and Jerry, and has strong opinions about growing old and about television interviewers who go on for too long. Ladies and gentlemen, Kingsley Amis. Good evening.
Why not? Yeah. How are you?
I'm very well. Though I don't share your enjoyment of and laughter at Tom and Jerry.
Really? Seen anybody about it?
Do you mean a doctor or something?
Someone like that.
Or a laughing specialist?
Of your choice. Yeah.
I find it extremely violent and extremely vicious.
Oh, not vicious, surely.
Yes.
Really? I'm disappointed in you, Russell. I thought this was a great litmus paper test. If you find it violent, you don't really know what violence is.
And have I failed that litmus test?
You probably be able to climb back to favour later on, but for the moment you're several points down.
Now then, you've finished, or you're about to finish, a book which is on the stocks, which has a slightly difficult subject. It's about the subject of castration.
Yes, that's, so to speak, the starting point of the plot, yes.
Is it possible for you to tell us a bit more about it? Because it's a touchy or delicate subject, isn't it?
Yeah, all right. Well, I tell you what, I'll start, and when I got too boring, you stop me. You see?
Or when you've used the wrong words.
Yeah, well, you stopped me before we get to those. No, I just thought that, considering the castrato singers of what I thought were the 18th century, supposedly at that time, the finest singers in the world, with more power than the female voices in that soprano range then, but with this unfortunate surgical intervention before, it just occurred to me what that must be like and what it would be like to be a boy of 10 facing that operation, because I found out by inquiry that it has to be done before puberty if the treble voice is going to be preserved. And I simply thought that this actually brings in all the most powerful themes we have. I mean, if the boy suffers this operation and becomes a very successful singer, then he has money, fame, position, and in a Catholic society, favour from the church, favour from God, and so on. But as we realise, what he's missing are the other important things in life: love, marriage, children, the family, and so on. And so I thought, well, this can't be done in the present day. Yes, do.
Can you fall in? Surely you can fall in love if you're castrated, can't you? I mean, does it stop you from falling?
It doesn't do you much good. I wouldn't know, but they tell me it's not much good, really. Even if you're castrated after puberty, you're not in much condition after a year or two.
To do anything about being in love. But
no.
I mean, the heart presumably need not to be affected, even though other things are.
Well, of course, this is one of the questions that comes up. I mean, and one of the things I try and bring up in my book is, how do you explain to somebody who can have only the very vaguest, most generalized sexual feelings, as a boy of 10 would have, I think, what sexual love is like? And I spend, and perhaps waste, quite a lot of time in the book with a lad trying to understand what's explained to him by people who have experienced this and done this.
Does this book, if you'll forgive the expression, have a happy ending?
In one sense it does. I mean, he tries to escape the operation. Everybody's very keen for him to have it, and we think he's nearly escaped. But there's an intervention by a higher power, and he suffers a disease in that part of his anatomy, which means that he's back to square naught, as it were. But he does end up as a very successful singer, so there is that to be said for it.
Are there any castrati alive, still singing?
No, they went on, I found, to amazingly late. I thought it was all an 18th century phenomenon, but the last one of the lot, I discovered, Alessandro Moreschi, who had a very successful career as a singer and as a musician. He was head of the Sistine Choir. He died in 1922, which is the year I was born, oddly enough. So it's a recent phenomenon, but one that people have completely forgotten and do regard as something very much in the past.
Do people look at you peculiarly when you go to libraries or places to research upon castration? I mean, do you say to the librarian, with her glasses.
Anything good on Castrati? No, well, I haven't had to do that. Somebody had the foresight and the decency to publish a book on this very subject.
Which gave you all
just the other day. All I needed, yeah.
Now, what about a book you've just recently published about Rudyard Kipling, who is not the world's most fashionable author at this moment, is he? Or is he enjoying a vogue, do you think?
Well, I think he's, in a sense, he died, he died in 1936, and as people do when they've been very, very famous in their own lifetime, they tend to take a plunge in critical esteem after that. In fact, he started taking a plunge earlier than that. People started worrying about his imperialism and his supposed approval of violence, about 1900. But then as he took the dive in critical estimation, but he's gone on, I would say, with readers very much, uninterruptedly.
What swung him into your critical vision?
Well, he got swung in. I must say that a lot of people had been doing some swinging before. The Kipling revival began, 30 years ago in minor ways, perhaps not noticed very much publicly. But I got onto him by chance. It was a television company, should I call it that?
Mm.
We're doing...
Does it have 3 initials?
Yeah.
Is the last one C?
Yes.
And are the first 2 the same letter?
Shut up, yes. Anyway, they were doing a series on writers and their houses, and a short series of films, which I thought were very good indeed. But they were restricted in their choice by the number of writers' houses that were actually still there. Mm. Kipling's was and is.
That's Bateman's.
In Sussex, yeah. Mm. And they thought, I suppose, who is enough of a fascist to give a favourable account of Kipling? Because obviously if you're going to do a film of that sort, you don't want him to be knocked. You want somebody who appreciates him.
And did the BBC have a fascist file?
No, I think it was just mother wit, you know. Anyway, so I did that, and I enjoyed doing it very much. And then I got asked by the publisher, Thames and Hudson, to do the Kipling volume in their series of writers and other famous people.
Would you say that you changed your political views as you've gotten older and more successful and more relaxed into life?
No, I think I've stayed the same. I think that's everybody else has changed. You see, I'm just where I was as an old-fashioned liberal, and the world and facts and events have taken a disastrous swing.
Which way?
Or to the left. Because things that I used to take for granted, that whatever one felt about things, the majority's opinion must be respected and listened to. This is no longer generally accepted. I think it is by people we don't hear about and don't hear talking, but in the press and in the media generally, the idea that the majority, if they have the wrong views, should be ignored or overthrown. This is now an acceptable idea for lots of people. And I find that very frightening.
Do you have any political ambition at all?
No, none at all. Well, my political ambition is to be left in peace, which is a considerable one these days.
Do you have any sense of power or feeling of the need for power other than that which you exercise in writing?
Well, I think that every writer must be, in his way, a terrific power man, though he exercises it at a distance. And, for example, wanting to be remembered after one is dead, that must be a power thing. But I think it's a relatively harmless view and a harmless attitude. I mean, the people that frighten me are not the people who work so indirectly, but the people who want me to behave in certain ways and not say what I think.
You have fairly deep interests in the processes of growing old. I mean, in different places you've written about.
I have to these days, you see.
Why? How old are you?
Here I am doing it, 53.
But many people would claim 53 as a kind of plateau or tabletop upon which they could rest comfortably for a few years.
Well, that's just it. I mean, if one's guaranteed one's tenancy of the plateau, that's fine. But
so have you just thought of that phrase?
Yeah, cool.
Good. Please carry on. Sorry.
But of course, one isn't guaranteed everything, and I find that I hope a lot of other people would say the same of my sort of generation, that one's reactions become very much slowed up. I mean, it's the most humiliating thing in the world.
Do you notice that?
Yes, well, watching, for example, the University Challenge, I know the answer very often. I say, it's, and the chap has said Rachmaninoff and pressed his button. You know, when I say, yes, it's somebody whose name begins with R. Though I, you know, if grilled long enough, I would certainly say I knew that. But I don't think this, I hope, this doesn't necessarily matter to people like novelists and poets who are working in really very slow tempo. I hope that my eye for quirks of human behaviour is as quick as it was. I may find it more difficult or a slower business to name things, but then I've got a lot of time.
Yes, but you also look physically as though you're a person who has time.
That's because you can't see my
belly.
Yeah.
I thought that's the word you were looking for. No, but you have a cigar and you have a glass. What are you drinking? Scotch, is it?
Of course.
I mean, you have the appurtenances of comfort and easy middle age. I mean,
yeah.
Says he, putting the glass down. But can you hear Time's winged chariot's wheels behind you at all?
Well, if I think about it, of course I can, but then, fortunately, there's always something more to do. So, as I was saying, I've finished my book in a sense. I got to the end of it, but I'm already busily thinking about the next one.
How threatened are you, finally, professionally, by the fact that you have a bright and beginning to be well-recognised son as a writer behind you?
Oh, I'm very disturbed by that.
Are you?
Oh, yes. I'd like him to be very successful, as long as he doesn't get too successful. As long as they don't start saying, oh, Kingsley Amis, are you anything to do with Martin Amis? And I said, yes, I'm the boy's father. That might be in prospect.
Is that likely to happen, do you think?
Oh, I hope not, but you never know.
But it must be not easy for him to emerge from under a mushroom.
Well, he did that very well, I think. I admire him for that, and for his writing as well. But he had something, I think, to throw off, rather than an easy ladder to climb by, and he did it with my encouragement, of course, but my, as it were, silent encouragement. I didn't give him any help. Not that he would have deigned to accept it if I had.
Is he independent?
Yes, and we see eye to eye on a lot of things, not on everything. It wouldn't be right if we did. But he's a very independently minded lad.
But we'll all look well, won't we, or you in particular, if he has a son who also becomes an eminent writer as well. I mean, I wonder how long back in history it is since there was grandfather, father and son writer all doing it at the same time. Can you remember anybody like in that position?
No, I think by the time he produces a son who's going to be a successful writer, my interest in such matters will not be as keen as it is at the moment.
Well, if it is, we'll invite all three of you back and you can do a term, as they say.
It'll be a wonderful time.
Kingsley Amis, thank you very much indeed. That's it for tonight. It's good night from David Bowie in Burbank, California. Good night from Kingsley Amis here. Good night from me and good night to you all. See you same time, same place next week. Till then, night-night.